Green Mountain is not far. He meant everything to me.
He gave me the stare.
I'm exhausted as is.
I don't want to talk.
Why?
He turned 9 yesterday.
That place was too much. Did he bring the shovel? Hello everybody, it's me, Dregobob. I hope you enjoyed that little thing I tossed together for the opening of the video. From here on out, things like that should hopefully be the status quo for video openings. Now, as per usual, make sure you join my Discord server, check out my little merch shop, and follow my other socials where I ramble about things on occasion. Oh! Starting with this video, I'll be featuring a random creator on my Discord server at the end of each video along with the usual artist promotions. So, if you want to collab or have the chance to have your channel or video featured, join my server. It's a fine place. Now, on to the actual video. Oh, one more thing. Less than 10% of you are subscribed. I'd be ever grateful if you subscribe to help me raise that level. Thanks! Now, Green Mountain. This is a very unique analysis video because it's forced me to do a much different type of analysis. Because the main game, as polished and incredibly interesting as it is, doesn't have the story we're hunting. Well, it doesn't seemingly have a story until you really understand what's going on inside, and can understand the symbolism and parallels happening. Now, allow me for a brief moment to explain my playthrough of the first game. Upon opening the game, it seems rather unassuming. The game itself seems normal, albeit different. Sonic has no eyes. The sky is pitch black, and all of the texturing is much brighter in the bright parts and much darker in the dark parts. There's also the soundtrack. It's incredibly eerie. It sounds almost like piano. Heavily distorted keys being tapped in a series of notes that make it sound close to actual music, but at the same time it feels so distant and wrong. And my idea for why it exactly sounds like that will come up a bit later. Fun fact, I don't think I ever bring this up again. Now, the entirety of this game follows a player, or Sonic, making his way up a mountain, which is all I can assume due to the name of the game, and the constant ascent, what I can only assume is a mountain. Which isn't all too interesting up until you come to the peak, where you meet another Sonic. Only all of its details besides its quills are black, like the sky, making them appear to have no face. Upon approaching them, they attack Sonic. Despite having no rings, we never die, and our only option is to beat this other Sonic. However, instead of keeping up the fight until the very end, they attempt to flee after taking a few hits. They even smash their fists against the border of the screen in desperation to get away. Dealing the final blow causes them to do the Sonic death animation with a twist. They melt into the floor, which is an odd yet interesting detail. Speaking of interesting details, the rest of the game is nothing. You're locked in the single area with nothing to do but stand still. Eventually, after enough time has passed, Sonic will begin to melt away along with the world itself until he looks exactly like the figure which we dispatched. Where it finally ends with a game over and a strange series of tones. With that brief explanation of the gameplay itself now, let's dig deeper. And I mean much deeper. Using a handy-dandy tool called, yes, this is the name, Undertale Mod Tool, we're able to peer directly into the game's assets and get a glimpse at its inner workings. And in this specific case, get a much better idea of what's going on in this game's story. On the surface, the files appear normal enough, but a cursory reading of each name reveals a string of sentences that form a conversation, which took me forever to figure out. And I had to do a bunch of changes to the words and stuff, and I'll just read this now. We've been trekking up this route forever. Couldn't you do it now? You will do it sooner or later. Yeah, speaking of, how far is it? Green Mountain is not far. Okay, we are here. Did you bring the shovel? No, we left it in the car. It's in the back. Have you talked to her? Not really. Why not? I don't want to talk. Why? I'm exhausted as is. I'll set stuff up at the clearing. Do you already need to go? No, but I needed to mark something. This conversation is very telling. Not really, actually. From what I can infer, the two people in this conversation are traveling to Green Mountain to bury something. What that thing is, well, the first thing that comes to mind is a body. Though they make no mention of anything of the sort, which could also mean they intend to dig something up, or find something. Nevertheless, we'll stick with the idea that they're planning on burying something. This her they're also speaking of in the conversation as well also raises more questions. Is she involved in some way? Do they know the person they may potentially be burying? Or could this all be more supernatural? I say this because there's an image file tucked away in the files. This file is named Returnal, and its contents are very disturbing. The image itself depicts a woodland scene, perhaps Green Mountain itself. Crouched or splayed out on the floor, however, is Sonic, or something that resembles Sonic lying there, or stalking on all fours towards the camera in the darkness. Due to its poor quality, I can't make out much, but I can see a face, two limbs of some kind too. I don't have enough info to make a good guess of what this could be. However, we have one more game and all of its contents to look at. So let's look at Green Mountain 2, or as it's simply called in the files, 2. As we did before, I'll explain the game's contents from start to finish. Opening the second game, we begin at the top of a hill. I say that because the entirety of this level is spent descending down what seems to be another hill or high place. This level's audio consists of what sounds to be a heavy storm, and eventually we come across these puddles of liquid or tar that Sonic can sink into. In the entire level, these are the only things that can game end Sonic. The entirety of this level is basically a downhill trek leading to the end of the level. Though throughout at different points we can get occasional glimpses of a figure that looks remarkably similar to the hollow Sonic we saw in the first game. Only this Sonic is much darker and slimmer too. Like a shadow or even an apparition or ghost leading the Sonic onwards, with its placements at downhill, long, open sections, making it feel like in the story, this Sonic is chasing the ghost. After this run, we eventually pass a monument of sorts and reach the end level marker, which leads us on to the second and last level of this chapter of the game. Throughout this level, we're treated to another bizarre, corrupted-sounding music track, not too dissimilar from the first game's OST. And while you could imagine this level offers little substance, you would be wrong. This level follows you traversing a city or neighborhood. I say that because throughout the level you can find various houses with badniks representing what I can only assume are people. Walking into them will hurt Sonic, and while bouncing on them once should destroy them outright, each hit breaks them more and more, producing a horrific crunching noise until they finally stop moving. Looking at the map via the modding tool reveals there's a vast number of them scattered around the level. Along with them, there are these odd items labeled as cameras or cam in the game files. Once we reach the end of the level, one of these cameras appears. Looking closer, the level's end reminds me almost of a bedroom or the interior of a home. The fact one of these cameras appear marking a game over is rather chilling, because I believe, just like the first game, this game is a replaying of events. These events being a string of murders by Sonic, or at the very least the person representing Sonic in these games. I say this because of the contents of the scrambled message hidden within the data, which I'll admit stumped me for the longest time, as at this point I believe this is the beginning of something new. I will say, just like my first decoding, I'm unsure how well I did on the decoding portion of things. If you think you have a better rendition of what's shown here... Hair. Angel hair. No, another time. If you think you have a better rendition of what's shown here, tell me in the comments. What is it with that look? You live a quiet life. You're very happy. I don't think so. I feel bad. I had to know the right things. No right things. It's not going to matter in a couple of days. It deserves to be settled. You're too miserable. And you're too kind. The rest was blurry. That place was too much, so we walked away. It was so careless. I hope David knew better. A neighbor. You know him, I think. He asked me about her. I don't care what he thinks. Can I ask, why would he care? I don't know. He never did before. That's enough. You seem worried about other things. We then cut to another perspective. One that may be from a victim currently being interrogated by police, or just explaining their story to someone. Some words are redundant, as I discovered. If and when a third installment is released, I will further revise these decoded messages. Can I ask? Those two, they were going to find me. They saw from the forest. Can I ask? He gave me the stare. The other walked with a limp. Can I ask? They split up and left. That place was too much. He turned 9 yesterday. He meant everything to me. From there, the rest of the text fragments are a mystery to me. I spent hours and hours trying to decode and piece this together into something that made sense. Unlike the first game, whose text was light and easy to pick together into something that was easy to understand, the second game's files had a far greater amount of text fragments, and I believe some of the fragments I used weren't even meant for the final decoded product, as some seem more explanatory of who the neighbors and some of the objects are in the files. In due time, I'll likely make a short with a better decoding of the text here, but let me give you a final explanation of the current story before we run out of time. Green Mountain's story is still cloaked in a thick veil of mystery. What we have right now is a duo traveling up a mountain to bury something. Or someone. I now firmly believe that it's someone they are burying. From my view, the second game is both a continuation of the story of the first game and the beginning of a second point of view. The point of view of someone who is chasing them, trying to catch them while being at the same time in over their head as they find themselves pursued in turn by the duo from the first game, only for them to flee the scene, leaving behind the body of what they were trying to bury. The body of a, well, I can't say that, otherwise YouTube will kill me. When analyzing things like this, I always try to view things from the most tame point of view I can. Unless it's directly spelt out for me, I typically won't ever assume the very worst. But here, while decoding this part, I tried dancing around it as much as I could, trying to put that line to something else. But the way I managed to put it together, unfortunately, made the most sense. As of now, I'll pin Green Mountain as a story of a murder. Two people trying to hide this murder, and a new person who seems to be a parent, reporting what they saw to the police in an interview. I will say this is my first time ever doing a video that's required me to go into a game's files like this to uncover its hidden story, so with time I'll get better. And with the release of the third installment coming maybe someday or never, I'll likely be able to do a much better job on decoding at that time. Currently on screen is art and a featured video from my Discord server. If you'd like your channel or art to be featured, join the server. You're more than welcome. I'm Dregobob, hoping you're having a wonderful day or night wherever you are. Bye-bye! This one goes out to that super cool composer, Sandy. So show me that I cannot see.